restoring hope. Open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, I guess, now that this show can be podcasted and archived, and you may listen at any point in the day. I guess maybe I should just say good day. I am Tamara Scott. We come to you with truth for our time, truth that can help you when the headlines hit home. But I want to thank Restoring Hope and J. Michael McCoy for sharing his airtime with me. We appreciate that very much. For those of our listeners who are joining us on the radio network, you will be hearing this 6:30 Central Time on Sunday evenings on American Family Radio. And the rest of you may be listening live, 10 a.m. Wednesday, is when we film or tape the show. You can watch it online. You can chat with us. You can call in at that time, at that 10 a.m. number. For those of you who are listening Sunday evening, sorry, those numbers are just going to frustrate you if we give them out during the show. But for those who are at 10 a.m., you can call in and talk with our guests and converse with our guests and learn more about the information as we give it to you. I have put some of the links on the Facebook page, Truth for Our Time, and we'll continue, as well as the Stop Common Core Iowa page. Put some of the links that we'll be talking about today on there as well. Restoring Hope, Mac kind of talks about helping the individual in restoring hope, and we kind of come at it from helping the community or the country in restoring hope, taking on those policy issues. Now, I will, though, in the future, probably be coming on a couple of those individual issues. As you know, a couple weeks back, I said that we'd pre-taped a couple of shows, and I said that I would be going with Governor Bobby Jindal to the Angola prison in Louisiana. I did. I can't tell you what a life-changing day that was, what an experience that was. The people that I met were so kind and loving, and they were offenders. They were murderers. They were convicted. They will be there for life. I can't even talk about it without choking up. The hope that these people had, the changed lives that I saw, the kindness, the respect for each other. Warden Kane, Burl Kane, he's written a book about it. I have it right here, and it's called Kane's Redemption. I will do a show on this, but I have to process everything still in my own head, and I don't want to do it lightly. I want to do it properly and have the right people. So we will be talking about that in time. But the book by Dennis Sher, Shere, Kane's Redemption, is an excellent read, just taking us through the whole prison system and helping us rethink how we're treating our fellow man. Guilty as charged, do we still treat them as human beings as God sees them and give them justice? There's still death penalties in Louisiana. Like I said, most of those men that I met with, many of them for second-degree murder in Louisiana will face a life sentence, unlike other states. It was just an amazing day. And these men have hope now that many don't have. And I'll hold that off. We'll talk about that when we do the show. I just am so moved by what I have been able to encounter in the last week. And then we had the sex trafficking conference. We'll do a show on that coming up as well. Sex trafficking is an issue right here in America, right here in Iowa, and most likely in a city near you as well. We'll do a show on that coming up. There's so many headlines and so little time, but we tell you we offer you help when the headlines hit home. And so today we're going to jump back to some of those things we've been working on. Larry Krieger is going to join us. You might recognize that name if you're one of our faithful listeners. Larry helped us get the information and learn about the new APUSH Advanced Placement U.S. History Exam. And I think Larry's on the phone right now, so I'll go ahead and bring him in if that's okay. First, I want to say thank you to Ryan, our producer. Ryan's the one who keeps everything running, gives all the information on the screen, and covers me when I mess up. So thank you so much, Ryan, for what you do. And let's go ahead and say hello to Larry.
Hi, Tamara, and hi to all your listeners. I'm looking forward to discussing the APUSH curriculum and framework with you.
Well, thank you so much, Larry. And I'm actually just reading, before we came online, I was just reading one of the, I think it's the Putting Politics Ahead of the Facts by Susan Griffin. And yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I have to laugh because you've now joined my club, the Little Fringe Group. We are the Little Fringe Group. Amazing how the more parents that learn about this, the more school teachers and professors who actually understand history accurately, who will become alarmed about this as their kids, kids who understand history begin to not do so well on these new exams. I think this fringe group will grow. What do you think?
Yes, and I think you're probably a officer in good standing in this.
I think I'm probably the president.
In this small fringe group. I'm beginning to come up in the ranks. Mrs. Griffin was part of a coordinated college board pushback that occurred. Today's Wednesday, seems like Tuesday. That occurred actually on Labor Day. So far, the College Board just really hadn't attempted to defend their framework at all. At first, they just totally ignored us, I guess hoping we'd just go away. And as more and more people began writing, I guess the pressure built on Mr. Coleman to do something. Now, we had hoped that what he would do would be to come to his senses and delay the implementation of this APUSH framework, but instead, Mr. Coleman, and no doubt his PR people, coordinated a response. There was a big article in yesterday's New York Times. There was one on History News Network, and Miss Griffin, who's a official in the National Council of Social Studies, published an article in the Texas Trib, it's called. This was for the benefit of people in Texas, and she wrote, "The good news is that the AP U.S. History course is being strengthened. The bad news, of course, is that, quote, a small fringe group is misrepresenting the course." And that would, of course, be an allusion to you, me, and the tens of thousands of people who have signed Bill Morris's online petitions, scores, I can't even keep up with them, of all the articles that have been written. We're just a small fringe group. Actually, the small fringe group are the three writers who the College Board recruited, and all they did was just simply repeat already refuted talking points. There was just nothing new in what they wrote whatsoever. I don't even think they've read the framework.
Well, in her article, she says it puts the documents like Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and the ideas put forth by Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, James Madison, and other founding fathers at the forefront of the student's examination of the past. Now, I have a question for you, Larry, because what I understood was that many of those founding fathers we have so learned about and loved and honored were not even mentioned.
Correct.
So why is she saying it's at the forefront of the examination?
That is a complete and total misrepresentation of the framework, and I can tell you that Jane Robbins and I are working on a major rebuttal to all this. But let me say this. There was something new that addresses just that point. The Pioneer Institute just published yesterday a major white paper on American history, Common Core, and APUSH, because they're all interrelated. And one of the three authors is Dr. Ralph Ketchum, who is a professor of history at Syracuse and the preeminent biographer of James Madison. James Madison, of course, your listeners will know, is the father of the United States Constitution and the chief author of the Federalist. And Dr. Ketchum lambasts the framework. He destroys it. He points out exactly what you've just said, which is that if you look at the framework, quote, when teaching about the American Revolution, teachers are not asked to teach about Benjamin Franklin, Patrick Henry, Paul Revere, or Sam Adams. Alexander Hamilton is mentioned as a suggestion, not a requirement. Neither Thomas Jefferson nor James Madison, a primary author of the Federalist Papers, is mentioned. And he then goes on, and there's more I'm sure we'll quote in a moment. So the preeminent historian of James Madison, the father of the U.S. Constitution, underscores what we've been saying. The framers were ignored, and there are, of course, reasons for that we can get into, but her statement is just incredible. She's also, I think, in the same article, Ben Franklin's there. He's the first question from his autobiography on the finally released exam. Yes, there's a paragraph from Ben Franklin's autobiography. He's describing the evangelical minister George Whitefield. And the questions are all about Whitefield. It has absolutely nothing to do with Benjamin Franklin. The fact of the matter is it could have been by Tamara, Scott, Larry Krieger, and LeBron James. It wouldn't have made any difference who wrote it. It had nothing to do with Franklin.
Well, I'm curious if they're mentioning George Whitefield. Is it even positive in that manner, or is that
no?
Okay.
Now, you've touched on something. It's Whitefield. You've touched on something very interesting. Actually, now that we have Stanley Kurtz's analysis of what's really going on here, what's really going on is that the framework does have a coherent message. It really does have a philosophical perspective, and the perspective was originally explained by Thomas Bender, a leftist professor at NYU. And the perspective is a transnational, global perspective. And the real reason for looking at Whitefield was the question is, well, you see, Whitefield illustrates transatlantic influences, you see. A reexamination of this test found that about half of the questions on the test all lined up beautifully underneath the banner of globalism and transnationalism. Perhaps the best example is Washington's farewell address. Now, Jane and I just published an article that you'll find at School Reform News, and it's their lead article on why George Washington was all but ignored and Dr. King was ignored. If your listeners will go to School Reform News, they'll find it right there at the top of the page. Now, yes, the test does have a passage from Washington's farewell address. And as we point out, this little fragment, this is it for George Washington. He was first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. That we know, but he apparently wasn't very much on the minds of the framework authors. Now, why do we have it? We have it because it's not complementary. From the globalist point of view, Washington's America's foreign policy should be based upon American interest is antithetical to the globalist transnational view. And so the questions guide students to see that thanks to George Washington's farewell address, the United States didn't join the League of Nations. That's question 31. And then question 33 is, well, when did Washington's farewell address cease to have any influence at all? And the answer, of course, is with the outbreak of World War II, when the United States, from a globalist point of view, joined the global community. So a reexamination of the exam and even the framework from this globalist transnational view, which sees America as just another country, it turns a course that should be called AP U.S. History into kind of transnational, America and the world would actually be the title they would give to it. About half the points on the test line up right under that transnational viewpoint. And we're going to be we've already begun to write about that.
And then she talks about the transparency of the test, that it usually hadn't been given out but every 5 years, and now they're going to give it out every year.
Yeah.
Is this a positive that we have caused by asking for it? Because transparency was one of the issues we raised.
Yes. Now, it's important to remember, they fought us tooth and nail. We were the ones who called it a secret test, and when would they release it? And for the longest time, the College Board didn't. Then, finally, Mr. Coleman released this test so we could analyze it and find out just what the secrets of the secret test were, and there are actually a few secrets. And now they say that they'll release the test each year. The positive there is I think this is going to act as a restraining influence, I hope, on the test writers as they sit down to write these tests. They know this is going to be published, so perhaps, maybe, they'll be a little more careful, but we'll have to wait and see.
So that might be the positive, if there's
Yeah.
a positive in this. But so far, you think that the, or correct me if I'm wrong, but you think that the College Board has been fairly non-responsive, though they are responding and defending themselves with the same talking points. They've not responded to the concerns and alleviated them.
That is absolutely correct. They certainly have not. They have not changed one single syllable in the framework since this all began. I'll give you a perfect example. From the very beginning, we've said, where's Ben Franklin? Where's James Madison? Where's Dr. King? We've had a long list, and Ketchum has the same questions. He wants to know, where's Harry Truman, John F. Kennedy, Dwight Eisenhower, Teddy Roosevelt? Not there.
John Kennedy's not in there anywhere?
No. JFK is not in the framework. Sorry, it's hard to believe. My childhood hero is not there. He says, quote, important 20th century presidents such as Teddy Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, and JFK are also absent. Harry Truman will not be around to give anyone hell, as he too is missing. And yes, that's true. Now they'll say, here's what Coleman says. Oh, it's just a framework. It's not a curriculum. It's the content part is, by the way, 52 pages long. And this will be peopled by examples from your state guidelines. Well, there's actually a couple problems with that. First of all, I counted yesterday. There are actually 51 people who are mentioned in the framework. He forgets that. They had space for 51 specific people. And groups like the Students for a Democratic Society and the Black Panthers, they had space for all that in their 52 pages. But they didn't have space for Ben Franklin. They didn't have space really for George Washington, though he gets counted because they technically mentioned him, but it's actually negative. So this is a significant problem. Now, they haven't changed anything. And so we ask in this article that Jane and I just published yesterday at School Reform News, we said, well, why not? Why not? Wouldn't it have been a shrewd move on their part to have just said, okay, Madison's in there, Dr. King's in there, so go away and come back tomorrow, to quote The Wizard of Oz. But they didn't do that. Excuse me. Why not? When that would make, just from a purely pragmatic sense, I think your listeners will agree, that would have been a shrewd strategy. Just stick them in and we'll go away and come back tomorrow. Maybe never. But they didn't do it. Why not? Well, they can't, because they actually do have a coherent organizational principle. And the coherent organizational principle has two parts of the same coin. Part one, we've already said, the transnational perspective, groups, identity group grievances. Part two, which is even more insidious, American exceptionalism is absolutely, positively anathema to the people who created the framework and the perspective they're bringing to it. So they have scrubbed out anybody and any document that has to do with American exceptionalism. That is to say, our unique destiny to be what President Reagan called a God-blessed and teeming with people of all kinds living in peace and harmony, America's unique mission to bring liberty and be a beacon of justice to the world. That's all gone. That's why the Mayflower Compact, the Gettysburg Address, the I Have a Dream speech, document after document after document omitted, hero after hero omitted, even including Dr. King, which is surprising. We delve into that. Why is Dr. King out? Well, it's because the dream that Dr. King had, as he so eloquently put it, was rooted in the American dream. And those are two words you will not find in the framework.
Okay, So we're talking about restoring hope on this show, and here's why this fits in. If you don't understand, as you're saying, Larry, the beauty of this country, the exceptionalism that we have had, the gifts of our people, whether it's a Martin Luther King, even an Einstein, the creations, the innovations that have come out of this country, our successes militarily. America has done more, as I understand it, for the foreign countries. The Jew, the black, the female in America has done better under America's government than any other government on the face of the earth.
Correct.
If we don't understand that as a nation, how will we have hope for a future? That's the concern.
It's a major concern because it's an insidious indoctrination of our youth. It's very important for your listeners to know 500,000 students are taking AP U.S. history. Now, these are among our best and brightest. These kids will become the next leadership generation of America, and they're getting a very cynical interpretation of American history.
Larry, I'll tell you what, you just heard me mention that prison that I went to. Angola used to be one of the worst, most violent prisons. It is now, I think, one of the safest. I had never felt more comfortable. I would have put any of those prisoners in my car and taken them home. They have been transformed. They have been given hope. Dennis Krieger toured this prison a month or so ahead of me, and his comment was that he was angry because he felt like we'd been given the cure for cancer but not allowed to share it. My point is, these kids, the College Board, the kids in public school are not allowed to hear truth. They're not allowed to hear the truth biblically that we used to share in school when our test scores used to be high and self-esteem and kids had respect for each other in life. But we're denouncing and demoralizing, denigrating, and omitting everything that made this country strong.
I regret to say that's true. Now, if Mr. Coleman or one of his proxies were on right now, they'd say, oh, no, teachers are free to bring in what they please. Well, that's true, except for one small problem. It won't be on the exam, you see.
And teachers are going to test with this much weight on the advanced placement credits. They are going to teach to the test just as they're doing in Common Core, and this will surpass state standards.
Correct. It will usurp them. And I'm sure maybe your skeptical readers are saying, oh, are you sure? Yes. Let me read one sentence to your readers. This is from page 2 in the framework.
And we're coming up against a hard break. So okay.
Do I have time for one sentence?
Quickly, yes.
Beginning with the May 2015 AP U.S. History exams, no AP U.S. History exam questions will require students to know historical content that falls outside this concept outline.
I'm so glad you read that. In essence, whatever is not in this framework, they need not know.
Correct.
Is that not frightening to anybody hearing this? If you are in earshot of this, whether it's an archive, and if you listen to this online, you can go to YouTube, get Tamara Scott Live online. Ryan will have it there for you. We'll have Larry Krieger's name by it. Send it to your friends. Send it to parents who are about to send their kids off to college. But understand, this is the beginning of the AP. This is what they'll be tested on before they get to college. Larry, we have just a few seconds left. What would you say to our listeners and viewers?
Please call your political representatives. We've reached a point where the College Board is intransigent. They're simply not listening. They're just repeating talking points. It's going to require real political pressure, and that includes our governors. That includes like Governor Perry, Governor Pence, Governor Jindal. That includes and representatives. How about the majority leader in Congress? The Speaker of the House in conference, Mr. Boehner. They're going to have to feel real major pressure because, remember, we're just a fringe group they don't have to listen to.
But they will listen to parents. Never underestimate the power of a parent. Call. We've seen this on the Common Core. Call your representatives. Call your school board members. Call the College Board. be on guard with this. And the other thing we're saying is that Congress should not fund the College Board. This is the issue when you have a non-governmental agency, and this is what we're seeing with the Common Core as well. Non-governmental agencies are not responding. They are not accountable. This is not what we want for our education system. My guest has been Larry Krieger. You can find this show on YouTube, Tamara Scott Live. I thank you for joining in. We are giving you the truth so you can put it in place and give yourself hope for your future and your kids' future. Be encouraged and never be complacent.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wonderscheid.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician.
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And good day, good morning, good evening. For those of you who listen on live at the archives, you listen at any point in the day. For those of you who are joining us on radio, good evening to you, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Mac for sharing his air with me. He talks about restoring hope with the individual, and I talk about restoring hope in a community, in a culture, making people stronger so that we can make a stronger society. We know when the family's healthy, society benefits. When the family's unhealthy or broken, society pays the cost. But a lot of what we deal with is giving you help when the headlines hit home. And if you ever want to archive the show, you can go to Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. We just keep them there for you, easy to grab. Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. YouTube. You can also go to the Facebook page, Truth for Our Time, where I put up the links of the things that we're talking about as we discuss them. And also for this particular show, Stop Common Core Iowa will probably have some of those links on that Facebook page as well. Joining me today is an author who's written the book No Choice, No Voice. And I laugh because I'll have to ask her if this was her intent, because I think she might have just been testifying before a school board. The video went viral, and I think that's already on Truth for Our Time, and it's already on Stop Common Core Iowa for sure. Karen Lamoreaux is the mom we saw talking to the school board about the math problem, and we'll talk to her about that. First, I want to mention, some of you know I was recently honored to attend dinner with Governor Bobby Jindal in his mansion. And at that time, I was hoping, of course, to get his ear and talk to him a little bit about Common Core and APUSH. And I didn't have to. He came out the door and immediately walked to me. I was close right when he came out, walked to me and thanked me for giving him this book, The Common Core, A Trojan Horse by Orlene Corley. We offer these to our listeners. You can get them at a suggested price of $15. And you can do that through ARC, and I'll give you the I don't have that in this book, of course, now that I start saying that, but you can get those from ARC. Let me get my glasses on here. ARC Copy, ARCCOPY.com, ARCCopy.com. And I'll just give you the phone number too, 707-586-9558. He had read that book. He thanked me for giving it to him a year ago. Said, Tamara, you were right. When nobody else was getting it, nobody else was talking about it, you guys were right. And so I mentioned the APUSH to him, and he said, funny, you say that. George Wills just mentioned that to me today. So pleased, encouragement, want you to know that there are leaders who are listening. There are leaders who are getting it. Of course, you've probably heard that Governor Jindal is suing the federal government for the right in Louisiana to educate as they want as a state, and we're so pleased to have him doing that. So let's jump back to our guest, Karen, and I'm saying your name correctly, Lamoreaux?
Correct.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out to join me today. I met Karen at the recent American for Prosperity conference, and they have been pretty good about coming out against the Common Core here in Iowa, although I hear maybe some other states aren't as blessed as we have been to have that happen. And of course, like any other group, we need to stay on them and make sure that they continue to speak out against the Common Core. They're a fiscally minded group. We know Henry Burke has said any state that doesn't take the Common Core will save money, and any state that takes the Common Core will lose millions. Iowa, he says, will cost $183 million plus after all the government's paid everything they're going to pay. So, Karen, thank you for joining me. You are the video we have, and I think I have that on Truth for Our Time. I'll check. Did you have any idea you were going to go viral when you were testifying before that school board?
No. In fact, there really wasn't any intention to record and post that until after the fact. One of my fellow board members recorded it from the live stream and put it on YouTube and told me about it later. And I was a nervous wreck. The first 24 hours were just so surreal, and I worried about the pushback I would get from people. I worried about the safety of myself and my family.
Sure.
But within the first few days, the support was absolutely overwhelming. I never got anything negative from anybody. In fact, it really helped to move our cause forward here in Arkansas. Our Facebook page took off. We started getting the ear of our legislators and the media. So, and there's a whole section of this that I dedicate in my book to that whole experience, the whole background on what happened in that meeting, why I said what I said, and what happened after that video went viral. It was just a very surreal experience, and it turns out that, because the mainstream media is so loyal to one side of the argument, what you really need is a viral video to get your message out.
Apparently, and I think many actual groups are trying to figure out what they can do to create that viral video. They see, the funny ones that come out with the pets or the children, and they wonder how they might be able to tap into that. Well, you did, and I think it's just because you had a message of truth. And I'll let you in, Larry Krieger, I don't know if you're familiar with Larry, he's been very active in the APUSH, the APUS history exam, fighting that as well. And so he's joining us. He's listening in to our conversation. And Larry, of course, you're welcome to join in at any point. But Karen, when we're talking about the Common Core, you just said it so succinctly. You had the math problem, and it was a 5th grade math problem or 4th grade?
4th grade.
And it took how many steps to do it? You asked someone how to do it, and they said it off the top of the head. They knew the answer.
Yes, only one of those board members knew the answer.
Was brave enough to talk. That says a lot right there. And so
they were asking our children to do that in 108 steps.
That's what I think, that was your viral moment. You had it all calculated, 108 steps, because they had to draw circles, draw slashes through them. So is what I think they used to call manipulative math when my kids were in school.
Yes, and that is, using manipulatives means having something in your hand, like blocks or popsicle sticks or something like that. And that's known as CGI method, and that's a math method that came out back in the 1980s. And that has been relatively successful, but it's most successful in the lower grades. I remember learning math that way to learn place value in the 1st grade. But to use those methods in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, or to try to relate those methods to a 2D image on black and white paper simply does not work. And CGI is a method of constructivism, and that's the type of math that we see in the Common Core with Turk investigations, everyday math. Those standards are rooted in constructivism. So are the ELA standards. And there's a lot more to constructivism than macaroni math. It goes a lot deeper than that. There's a lot of socialist philosophy in there, a lot of collectivism, a lot of fracturing of the parent-child bond.
Okay. When you talk about that fracturing of the parent-child bond, I wasn't prepared to go there, but I think we should. I often hear parents say, I would homeschool, but I don't get along with my kids well enough. And I tell them, if you got them out of public school, you'd be surprised how much better you would get along. Because you just mentioned the fracturing of the parent-child bond, not being able to help someone with homework, but also we see curriculum that pits children against their parents. Now, not
Absolutely. It establishes the state as the authority, not just in the social justice themes that they push in the rhetoric and the narratives, but also in the policies, the way these policies are laid out. It's really pushing us as parents off to the sidelines, saying, once they step into the school, they belong to us. We know better, and that's got to stop. And that's really the theme of the whole book. Is it gives a background on what Common Core is, but it focuses on how Common Core is removing our parental rights in a free country, and why we simply cannot allow this reform to move forward.
Now, you talked about the math, and I will post an article here where James Milgram, who was on the validation committee for Common Core, but he's saying it's going to destroy America's let me see if I can find it here. Will destroy America's standing in technology. Now, we hear STEM often brought along with Common Core, STEM being science, technology, engineering, mathematics, always promoted or often promoted along with the Common Core. Milgram says we're destroying the standing in technology. Do you agree?
I do agree, and he leads up to that, Dr. Milgram does, by saying that these math approaches leave our kids 1 to 2 years behind our international peers. And the way Common Core does that is that they push standard algorithm, which is your rote memorization, your simple 2-step process to answer these problems, pushes those ahead 1 to 2 years in favor of spending time on constructivist methods instead. The problem is that these methods are not new. We've seen them before. Common Core is not new. We've seen it before. This is just a total repackaging of the same reform that they tried to push back in the 60s. It failed then, and it needs to fail now. But we spend all this time on constructivism, and then we don't get back to, normal computing until, close to 7th grade. Well, by then, our international peers have left us behind mathematically. So these kids are really not going to be prepared by the time they get to high school. They're certainly not going to be prepared to move forward in college. And that's why they're approaching, the university system with this seamless transition plan, as they call it, where they're really just dumbing down the first 2 years of college to accommodate the dumbing down of the Common Core kids that will be entering. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and it's by design because this allows them to manage the economy moving forward. And this allows them to determine who the nurses are going to be and who the electricians and the plumbers are going to be and so on and so forth. So, this is a clear threat to the American dream. It's a clear threat to individual freedom. It's a threat to the stability of the family unit. It is so much more than bad math, and it is so much more than just another education reform. This will fundamentally change the next generation.
Karen, I have to say, you're probably going to end up joining Larry and I's and Jane Robbins' small fringe group that we've been listed as with that kind of talk.
Yeah, our small fringe group is 8,000 strong in Arkansas.
As I told Larry earlier, I'm used to it. It might be new for him. I'm used to it. But here's my little bit of wisdom. When you are taking fire, it means you're usually very close, if not hovering over the target. So we're right on target. And of course, my devotion I happened to read today out of the book that Diane Rogers gave me, who's the assistant to Dr. Alveda King, just a blessed time with them a couple weeks ago. And of course, I just happened to open it, and it talks about the false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. And I just thought, thank you, Lord. Thank you for that little tidbit. We'll just take that as we go on. I do need to take this little moment, too, and thank Christians for America. Christians for America, you can find them also at Crave. They are good to help us, bring us about, sponsor us, partner with us, that we can continue to get this airtime on the radio stations across America. And we thank them. If you'd like to come alongside, we'd be blessed and thrilled to have you partner with us as well. So we continue to talk about these things. As Larry said in our show earlier, that he has a hard time getting things out. The New York Times will always print something from the liberal or the left side, not so much from the right side. So there's very few avenues where you can really get the truth for our time, which is what we try and give you here. Karen, I want to go to your book. Did you know you were going to write this book, No Choice, No Voice?
No, I didn't expect any of this. This has been such a journey. It's such an adventure. I didn't set out to be the face of this movement in my state. I didn't plan any of this. I was approached by a third party a few months ago to do this book, and I was really reluctant. So I don't have time for this. I'm trying to raise and now homeschool because I withdrew my children in March. And for all of those that are on the fence about that, that's coming from a mother who, if you'd have asked me 3 years ago if I was going to homeschool my kids, I would have laughed at you.
Right.
And I would have said, you're nuts. I'm not qualified to do that. There's no way I could stay in the house all day with my kids. This reform changed my view of parenting completely. This reform and my role in it has I see the whole world through a different set of glasses now. And pulling my children out to homeschool them is just one result of that. And so I have all of this going on. I feel like I've taken on a second job without pay. Fighting this reform is a daily battle here. And I was too busy, but I did it anyway. And I've had a lot of help along the way, and I'm hoping to get this book into the hands of as many parents and as many legislators as possible, because the goal in the book is to break down the many tentacles of Common Core into an understandable fashion. It's really hard to put Common Core into a 30-second elevator speech, and I think they did that by design. And to explain to people the threat that it poses and how to go about getting rid of it. So rather than focusing on, the mega testing or the money that's being made or all of the other issues we have, my focus is how does this affect you as a parent?
Right.
As a parent. How does this violate your rights as a parent? My motivation here is I want to be able to look my kids in the eye 20 years from now and say we did everything we could to make sure that you have the right to educate your children. I want to be able to look my kids in the eye and say, because we fought so hard, the state is not going to come and demand that your kid go to preschool starting at age 3 or age 1, and you lose your influence after that. So I hope that parents will find this empowering.
I thank you for doing it. I thank you for being obedient and writing the book. I too have been asked to write books on a couple of occasions, and I've not been so good as you to get it done. So I thank you for doing that. If I were to write one like you, my apprehension about homeschooling, I think I would have titled it "Any Dummy Can Do It," because it is so. In fact, I had a parent ask me one time. Actually, she was a teacher, and it was a very condescending tone. What if someone only has a 6th grade education? Do you think they could homeschool their children? And I said, absolutely. First
Look at Ben Carson's mother.
Isn't that a great example?
Look at Ben Carson's mother. And, there's no better person to educate your child than you. As a parent, you are the ultimate authority. There is no one better than you. And what I jokingly tell people who are hesitant about it, I say, hey, you can't do any worse than the public school system.
Right. My husband finally said, I was so worried I would not get something in. I would skip something, and they would have a hole in their education. And he said, whatever gap they might have will be better than the crap they will get. Hope I can say that on radio. So,
and if you use the classical model, you don't have to worry about those holes because everything comes back around every 3 to 4 years.
And if you have a faith like I do, and you've trusted your kids who are a gift from the Lord, when my daughter got to calculus, there was a network set up, and her teacher, there were only 2 in the class, and they still taught the class, so she had almost one-on-one mentoring and teaching. But the teacher was a beautiful brunette who had worked at Boeing and designed the program for the Black Hawk helicopter. So what a treat and role model for my daughter. I just truly believe that God will see you through when your heart is earnest and you're doing your best effort for your children. Let's get back to your book. And I want to talk, you and I mentioned, we were talking briefly yesterday, and I want to talk about this. Is Common Core truly a reform program, or is it a guise to privatize public school? Because I want to privatize public school, but I think I want to do it for different reasons than the left may now be wanting to privatize public school.
Yeah, I think the educrats and the reformers did a really good job of bringing both sides to the table on the outset of this reform. And they tied every measure that was on the table together under Race to the Top. So under Race to the Top, you've got what Arnie Duncan calls the 4 assurances. You've got assurance number 1, which is national standards and national assessments. Number 2, which is the P20, the preschool through age 20 individual data collection in the state data systems. 3 are the new teacher accountability measures, new evaluation systems, specifically those that are tied to the test. And then 4 has to do with addressing low-performing schools. And under that piece of the grant program, you get the most points for lifting caps on and expanding charter schools. Now, typically, the conservative right has always been in favor of charter schools and pushing school choice. The left, not so much. They see it as a total privatization of the system, the closing of their public schools, and teachers don't like it because it's harder for them to get and keep a job and so forth. As a conservative, this puts me in a really tough spot because I think there are good charter schools and I think there are bad charter schools. And I believe in school choice. I believe in voucher systems. I believe that the money should follow the child. And if you're in a school that's not a good fit, you should have the ability to move. The problem is that the charter movement has been so corporate corrupt at this point and has gotten so big. They have stated that it is their goal to make the system 90% charters. And the way they do that is they lobby for these consolidation bills. Here in the state of Arkansas, we have something called Act 60 that says if you don't have enough kids in the school, then they shut the school down, even if it's performing better than its competitors. So what's happening is we're losing good neighborhood schools. They're closing them. And then the charters come in. And if these kids in these rural areas don't produce the grades that are good enough for them, they kick them out. And now these kids are riding 2 hours on a bus to go to another school. That's not choice.
Boy, that will increase dropout, don't you think?
Oh, it already is, especially in the Delta area. So the way that is implemented is critical. And conservatives, I think, really need to be educated on what they're pushing, and they need to be very careful as to how we enact this. The other thing that Common Core has brought up for me as a parent is I've learned that if my child is in a charter school, They're riding my tax dollars, but they're not accountable to a local school board. So if I'm not happy with the curriculum that they're using or there's an issue in that school, my only recourse is to go to the management within that school and hope that they will listen to me. But they're not accountable to me because they're not elected. They're not accountable to a school board. So years from now, if we end up with what they want, which is 90% charters and the elimination of the local school boards, and another Common Core-like program comes down the pipe, which they're already working on, what are we to do? Who do we go to? You can't tell a private corporation that's based in another state running your school what they can and can't do, and they're using our tax dollars to do it.
And Larry's been so good and so quiet during this half hour, but I've talked to him. We have a show that you'll find on Tamara Scott Live on YouTube talking about the APUSH, the Advanced Placement U.S. History exam that has been changed and revised, much more left-leaning, leaving out our exceptional history that we have and just totally treating America in a different light. Larry, we now know, and it's very difficult for Larry with his love for the AP courses and his writing of the prepped textbooks for AP courses for years. We now know there's another exam that will be offered or will be suggested in place of this exam if these unelected bureaucrats do not respond. And I think, am I correct in saying that, Larry?
Yes. Yes, you are.
And I think, Karen, in time, we will totally move away from the school system as we know it as they continue to remove parents from their children, remove parents' input and their right, distance children from their parents. And I would have to say to most parents out there, and this will really put me on the fringe watch list, but go to your local school. Look at it. There's a gate outside. You're not allowed to go through except by one door where you have to present an ID or let them know who you are and get permission to gain entry. I'm sorry, but anywhere where my children are, I can walk in. If I put my children somewhere where I'm not allowed to walk in, I can't imagine that feeling. Then many of them have the metal detectors. By the time your school has a metal detector, it's time to get your kids out. Then you can't walk into a classroom and just see what's happening. They know you're coming. You don't even see what's taking place in the school building anymore. It is not the same environment it used to be when we used to teach the Bible, when we used to teach respect for each other, the golden rule. And honestly, test scores were better during that time. And I would say test scores were better in the one-room schoolhouse with flashcards, old-fashioned flashcards. So, Karen, tell us, how can we get your book?
You can get the book by going to www.nochoicenovoice.com. And it's available for pre-sale right now for $14.99, free shipping. And once the book is in print, which should be in the next few weeks, the price will go up a little bit. So now's the time to get your copy while you can. And, Tamara, there's a couple of other examples, too, not just with the physical makeup of the building, but with the privacy laws being relaxed.
Absolutely.
They're now able to collect data on our children and not even let us know that they're doing it.
Perfect point, and I wish we would have gotten to that. Absolutely perfect point. The data records, which will not be expunged, never be changed. Your child won't get a second chance should they mess up. So great point on that as well. We'll have to do another show. Karen Lemoreaux is my guest, Lemoreaux. NoChoiceNoVoice.com. I thank Larry Krieger for listening in on this half hour with us. You can find both of these shows on YouTube, Tamara Scott Live, and Christians for America. We thank them for coming alongside. We thank Restoring Hope for allowing us and sharing the air. Be encouraged and never be complacent. You can always make a difference.
Credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
See 'em here, see 'em there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com.
Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com today.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
And I am Tamara Scott. Thank you. We have just a few minutes left in our hour, and though we're not on the radio any longer, we've let our radio listeners go. For those of you who are online, we've got a little bonus for you. How about that? Karen's going to stay on. We just touched on the data mining. And so, Karen, if you want to just go ahead and give our listeners some information on that, I just don't think people can understand. We just have never had this happen in America. Not my government. Surely not here in America. Would they, one, take this information from my family without my knowledge, take such sensitive information? Give us the truth.
Sure. Well, the purpose of gathering this information is to help move us toward a managed economy. The Department of Labor has funneled millions of dollars into this program. In just my state alone in Arkansas, the DOL gave $18 million for this state longitudinal database system. Establishing these state databases was put into the works before the Common Core standards were released, and then it was tied into the reform under Race to the Top. The reason why we have state longitudinal database systems is because it's illegal for the federal government to have a national student database. But they wanted this information so that they could steer the worker bees.
Okay, hold on.
What they did was they offered grant money to the state saying, you know what, if we all use the same template and programs that will interface, then based on a law that was passed in 2002, you are now free to create your own database, and then with a few keystrokes, the federal government can link them up.
So we know it was illegal for them to have a federal curriculum, and they deny having that by doing the standards, but we know the curriculum's coming along. But you're saying it was illegal for them to have a national database?
Absolutely. And now they found a back door, just like they found a back door with Common Core. They found a back door with the data. So now the states are spending tons of money on these state longitudinal databases, and there are two templates that a state can choose from. There's the National Education Data Model or the Common Education Data Standards. Here in my home state of Arkansas, we took the National Education Data Model, and they have websites. Just go to nadm.gov or ceds.gov, CES, and you can download the list of data units that they wish to collect. Each of them have over 400 pieces of data, most of it on our students, a lot of it on the school. There's also data collection on the teachers. And all of this information now is no longer protected under FERPA.
Right. FERPA
was the law that is supposed to protect student information. The regulatory policies of that were relaxed by Arne Duncan and Company. It did not go through Congress. And there were two critical changes made to that law. The first one changed the definition of personally identifiable information and expanded it. And so it's no longer just about your demographics and your grades. It now includes things like behavioral characteristics, biometrics, medical, you name it. The other critical change they made was they removed the necessity for parental consent. It has been reduced to what we call a best practice, which means it's recommended but not required. So what this means is that the education system at large can collect and share and sell our children's data, and we don't even have to know about it.
That should alarm every parent out there. Not only do you not know about it, you don't even know if it's accurate. I mean, obviously, if you don't know about it, you can't check it. But one of the things that concerned me, and I can't remember which source it was that gave me this information, but if you were to have a record in a juvenile detention center, it could be expunged. This information will never be expunged. We have the P20W program, preschool 20 years to work, because this is essentially a school to work program, would you say?
Yes, this is based on the P20W data collection model. So the idea is to follow students individually until age 20. And that's not aggregately, this is individually.
And the questions, some of them that I have seen are disciplinary practices, religious affiliations, activities that your family does, bullying, views. It just gives your students the idea that the government has the right to oversee, regulate, and approve their values.
It does, and who's to say that this information now tied to their student ID, that they're not going to miss out on a job opportunity or a scholarship or getting into the school that they want to because of someone else's interpretation of that data. Who's to say there won't be a breach? We've already had breaches in New York where a student was able to hack the system and got into all of their medical records and put it on the internet. It's nuts. The child's information is personal and private. It belongs to us. It is not part of big data, and it is not theirs to take.
We are out of time now, but Karen, thank you for giving us that bonus time for our listeners and those who want to come to the YouTube and watch the Tamara Scott Live archive. Karen Lemoreaux is my guest, and I thank you so much for taking the time to put on page the information, the wisdom that you've gained from this so that other parents might, too, learn, become engaged, and make a difference in their kids' lives. We are the advocates for our children, not the teachers, not the unions, certainly, and not even the government at this point.
And we will win, Tamara. We will win.
I am convinced. I am absolutely convinced. And of course, now we have the APUSH battle as well, the AP US history exams. We need to get right on that. And kid yourself not. If they do it to one exam, they will do it to the next if they get this far without obstruction. So I finally found, my gift, Karen. I'm an obstacle, right?
Everybody has a role that they can play. Not everyone can write a book. Not everyone can go on the radio. But everyone has something that they could contribute. Whether it's telling someone else what's happening and just opening their eyes, or speaking with a legislator, or signing a petition, everybody can and should do something. And if we make enough noise, it will stop.
Karen Lamoreaux is my guest, Lamoreaux. You can find her book, No Voice. Is it No Choice or No Voice? No Voice.
No choice.
No choice.
No voice. Something's rotten to the core.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying tuned and listening in. Now go and make a difference. Be encouraged and never be complacent.